for the invitation to come here to speak, and I'd like to thank the organisers for such hospitality since I arrived yesterday, and in the little clap that they initiated there, you know, I didn't miss that, but thanks first of all, and I have to just apologise, I won't be able to stay for the questions and answer session because I have to get a flight, and just with the overruns in the other sessions I would just be running behind time. I suppose just going back to from the last session, Francisco just ended his summation and his final thoughts talking about sovereignty, and I suppose given that I'm a member and an elected representative of Sinn Féin, I couldn't start my session without referring back to sovereignty and how important that is for my party, for our policies, both politically and economically. And not just as being a member of Sinn Féin, but when you look at the economic situation in Ireland at the minute, and that we are under a Troika programme, and that by and large our economic sovereignty has been taken in large proportions, and that we have a memorandum of understanding there. This session, obviously, as Tom was saying, was Europe against austerity, building the alternative to cuts, and on the left it is important that, you know, we're always seen as being opposed to everything, and we get that in opposition in the Parliament. You're opposed to anything, but what are you for? And in these economic times it is critical that we actually show that there is an alternative, and that we are there with those alternatives ready to combat any argument that these right-wing conservative forces throw at us. So in my presentation I'm going to talk about Sinn Féin and our alternative to the programme that's been brought upon us at the minute, and what we're going to be proposing in our pre-budget submission coming up in the next few months. So I suppose first of all we'll start with a basic introduction. My name is Kathryn Reilly. I am a member of Sinn Féin. I have been since I've been about 16. I'm the youngest member of the Irish Houses of the Oireachtas, the Irish Parliament, and I'll be Sinn Féin spokesperson on EU and Youth Affairs, and I'm also a member of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. And I suppose through all those various roles, I do follow closely the economic and the political policies which do come to a large degree from the EU and how they're implemented in Ireland. And then my role concurrently in youth affairs means that I get to see the disastrous consequences of austerity policies on young people right across Ireland. And it has become, I suppose, recently abundantly clear that the role of the conservative forces never really miss a good crisis, and this is the perfect time for them, therefore, to try and do the things they've always wanted to do, but never could get away with. But now they're saying that they have to be done, you know, if there is no alternative. And I suppose that's why in Ireland we are seeing the speed up of privatisation of health and education services. And we see, for example, Irish language rights are thrown to the wind in the question of financial prudence, and, you know, disability services allowances are being cut, education being attacked. And it is important to note that what we are experiencing now, it's not just cuts, it's an attack on citizens' rights, and I suppose in the very concept of equality itself. And what we are fighting is the politics of fear. And for the first time in a long time, the absolute victory of capitalism is in question, and there are huge establishment forces who don't like that that's being put into any kind of question whatsoever. And that's why those of us who actually do question it will have to cooperate and learn from each other. And it is very much going back to the heart of what this session is about, Europe against austerity, and that we are starting to learn from each other. And I suppose that's why now I'll try and discuss as brief as possible, if I can do that, what's happening in Ireland. So I'll kind of start off putting into context both north and south in Ireland. So obviously we know that Ireland is a country divided by partition, and that in itself has bred incredible economic and social fragmentation. And I suppose that has been the case for most of the last century. But it does face, both sides of the board do face very common challenges, and those depressingly common to those faced by Britain and people right across Europe today. And these pressures are mounting, or these challenges are mounting as, you know, the austerity mongers are trying to ramp up their attacks against the very social and social fabric of our society. And the more they seem to fail, the more they seem to insist. In Ireland, since the economic collapse by virtue of the economic policies pursued by the Fianna Fáil governments in 2008, the Irish state has shed more jobs per capita than any other Western country since the Great Depression. And if you look at the unemployment, the emigration figures, you would actually see the real human cost of the failed policies of as Mick was referring to earlier, the domestic troika of Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and Labour. There's 460,000 people on the live register, and we have hundreds of thousands of people have emigrated already. And look, youth unemployment, for example, is at 30% in the south of Ireland, and the same number of people that sit the final state school examinations every year in Ireland are actually leaving in young people to the likes of Australia and Canada. And we look then at the other side of the coin, those who are remaining in Ireland. A lot of them are trapped, for example, in negative equity. They're unable to pay their debts, and they don't have any prospect of getting jobs in the near future. So it's a real self-fulfilling prophecy of doom. There's no hope there because of the failing policies. But due to the political situation in Ireland, it's very hard to tackle these. So starting in the south, for example, we have a government which still, despite any protestations that they make, they do actually have the power to plot a different course and not to blindly follow the memorandum of understanding that is there. And it was referred to by many of the speakers previously. We're hearing that there's no alternative. But uniquely, the memorandum of understanding and the Troika have made it very clear publicly and privately to Sinn Féin representatives that if the government came up with measures that would save or raise the equal amount of money that they want in the memorandum of understanding, the Troika would be open to accepting that. But our government in Ireland, or in the south of Ireland, refused to actually look at alternatives. And that's where we're coming in. We're actually presenting them with the alternatives and trying to highlight the fact that they are pursuing their own ideological agenda, which does look at hitting the lowest earners and completely dismantling our public services. Now in the north, I suppose things are more complicated because the economic matters are generally a reserved matter, meaning that the London government still control much of the policies. So in that respect, you have the London government making I just got how much time I have left. So we have the London government making decisions for people in the north for whom they're not directly elected. And if you consider that the Tories nor the Liberal Democrats received any votes in Ireland whatsoever, yet they're still insisting on their austerity. I'm going to ask for a little bit of flexibility in my time here, if that's okay, because there might be a few questions I won't be able to answer afterwards. But regardless of that, what Sinn Féin have said, both north and south, that we are opposed to austerity, and it is an ongoing campaign, battle for the hearts and minds of people. It's an ongoing campaign with the EU Commission, the IMF, the ECB, and the Tory government in London. So we are leading a campaign for a change in direction against these policies that don't dismantle public services or have brutal cuts against working people. So in the north, we're looking for greater fiscal autonomy, and that will allow the greater freedom for the north to actually generate revenue and to develop policies for the benefit of the people of the north, without the current restrictions, and give the freedom to actually develop an economic strategy that would be underpinned by the budgetary and fiscal decision making. And in the Assembly last week, we did put forward a motion that called for reversal in the direction that the economic policies are going on, and looked for a growth strategy that was based on job creation, progressive taxation, protection of the most vulnerable, and the protection of frontline services. So I'll just go back, I mentioned earlier about our pre-budget submission. I'll just touch on that because that is important, as I was saying earlier, because we are in a Troika programme, and because we are against austerity, and we're saying that there is another way. And as part of that, every year